Welcome back, our dear viewers. We have looked at what causes the drugs, what drugs are, and we want to know how can we prevent ourselves and even the different people watching us from taking drugs, from involving in drugs.
I think since our brother Hillary told us about him joining the bad peer groups, I think if you could avoid it, I think he would have actually abandoned the drugs.
Well, speaking from Joe's perspective, I think he just needed a friend. He was someone who was going through so much, and maybe all he needed was someone to talk to. So maybe if we all had someone to talk to, we wouldn't indulge in some things like drugs. So
I
talk
think
to your
Denise and
friends.
Paul are very right. Denise, you indicate that having a fallback position, because around the circles we have also had young people who take drugs because they feel very frustrated. They think nobody is caring about them. They think the burden on them is too much. Yet when you talk to another person, you relax a bit. That's when you learn that there are people who have similar challenges like yours. That's when you find experts and they tell you how dangerous what you want to try is. Paul indicates that the bad peer groups are really dangerous. We've earlier indicated that the groups could not be bad, but what is it they are doing? So try as much as possible to study. Young people should try as much as possible to study the groups they are joining. What is their objective? Why are they existing? Which type of people are they? Do we share interests? Are they of the same age? Do they have the same ambitions as we do have? Because they are young people whom you can join when their ambition, you're in senior 4, their ambition is to stop there and begin riding borders. But there are those whose ambition is to continue, they're in senior 4, they're in senior 1, but their ambition is far high in the air. We have often heard young people say, I want to become a president, I want to become a commissioner, I want to be... So know the type of people you're joining, because certainly if you are joining a team of people who are ambitious and they know what they want, they won't put you in the trap of beginning drugs.
And I think young people should not struggle a lot to say, who am I going to speak to? I think I do not have a friend to speak to. It is very important that you look at the circles, even in your own family. It could be your mother that you're friends with. It could be your father that you're friends with. Talk to him. He will give you advice. And sometimes we are friends to our parents' friends. You could confide in those ones. They would actually be of good help than just the peers you also do not trust. So it is very important that we find people that we can confide in. And it is also very good, like you've seen here, we've had Mr. Semakula and myself in your discussion, and I think you're learning from that. So young people should try out having discussions with other people, with adults out there.
And of course, the adults you are talking about should also avail themselves. Because earlier on you people mentioned, they are ever busy, ever away, ever finishing assignments. Many of them carry laptops home and different assignments and files. But when you are home, it should be time for your children.
Yeah.
It should be time to really consider your own treasure. Your children are your treasure, your children as your future, and therefore give them time to understand their challenges. I think people are still telling us more.
Yes.
Also, I think that they should set up organizations, those health educations to teach people about how to prevent themselves from involving in those peer groups, discourse, whatever, so that they don't
be tempted to take drugs. And Timothy is very right, of course. And when he talks of education, many people look at the school. But education never occurs in the school alone. Education occurs everywhere. Right at home, the family is the first school. The elders in the family should really talk to their children and educate them about these health matters. We have many parents out there who are always looking at the idea of discipline. But before you even emphasize the discipline, know its roots. Because many times the roots are from other. If your child is rebellious at home, he doesn't fetch water, he eats all the food and doesn't leave anything for other people, then you know there must be a root cause. And many times the root cause could even be drug abuse. Because one of the challenges you didn't mention is that when people begin taking drugs, their appetite also grows. Somebody can eat 3 kilograms of posho The other time I saw His Excellency teaching the nation how to eat posho in good proportions. But the proportion I saw can never be enough for a young man who is addicted and is on drugs.
But also the vice versa is true, that some other young people lose appetite and we find them drinking without any food, and at the end of the day we also see them developing other complications like ulcers and other problems that could actually weaken and affect their body immunity. So it is very important that we eat food in its right proportions as young people so that we can grow into responsible citizens of the country.
I think
Okay.
we can also seek guidance and counseling.
Where do we get this counseling and guidance now?
Where would she get it, for example? Or if you had a friend?
I think some schools have counselors, so if you need to talk to someone, you can go. And I think churches as well, they offer counseling services.
Okay. I think Shubi is very right. We can get the counseling and guidance from different corners. Only that we have to be mindful of whom we are seeking the counseling from.
Yeah.
Of course, out there are people who are professional counselors. They've gone to school and they've qualified to be professional counselors. But out there are also people who are keen at comforting, at guiding, when they are simply para counselors. They simply have basic skills. So it is up to you to know who is in your midst. If you are somewhere around the village, you may not be able to access a professional one, but you can run, as Priscilla says, that auntie whom you trust so much, that other uncle who is respectful, your own parents, the mother, the father, and so on, and your own peers.
And maybe the other bit we could look at, it could be the last point, is that if we have any people in our communities, it could be a relative, it could be your cousin, you could always make referral for them. You could tell them to also go to counselors or to the rehab or even Butabika or any hospital, and the help will begin from there. But most importantly, I would want to say that we should not start as another preventative measure. Do not start any alcohol, any drugs or any substances. We have talked about the different examples of drugs that young people abuse, and cow dung came out as one of those. As we are talking about it, we are not saying that the viewers out there should actually go and start using the cow dung. All we are saying, do not start. And
I think
that is very
a
important.
very strong message. Do not start, because the consequences are more than anybody can manage. We, for example, just talked of counseling, but you've seen young people starting and they are counseled and nothing is coming out. But she also indicated that we don't need to start, and that reminded me that many times people begin abusing drugs from a young age. Those who have researched in alcohol tell us that they begin when they see their mother preparing the waraj. They begin when their father leaves the cigarette half, and then they begin trying it. And then as they start it at 5 years, at 10 years, by the time they're 18, they're already addicted.
I think that is when we should also caution the parents to avoid using some of these things in the presence of their children, because they make it look like it's okay, it is cool to actually take drugs. And maybe some other parents go ahead and even send these young people to go buy the alcohol for them, which makes it easier for a young person to actually get it when they think they need it. So we should avoid that as parents, and even young people out there. We have looked at life skills in the other series that we've had, and we are saying if that is wrong, just talk to your mother, talk to your father that, Mommy, Daddy, I think I am not comfortable buying the alcohol for you. Do it politely and responsibly. I think your mother or father will also be able to listen. Do not just say, Mommy, I want to do that. Just tell them, Mommy, I think that is not right for me to do as a young boy or a young girl.
And if you feel like you may not manage telling them, then you can still get back to the other trusted friend, trusted adult.
And talk to them about it.
Talk to them about it, and then they'll finally approach the parents. Now, our dear viewers, as we wind up this wonderful session of alcohol, drug and substance abuse, I think there are critical messages to take home. But before we get to the critical message, we should also know that the government of Uganda is not quiet, is not simply looking on. It is aware that people are abusing drugs. It is aware of the consequences. It is undergoing a lot of expenditures. There's a lot of money put, for example, in maintaining the staff at Butabika Hospital and so on. So government has also tried to do something. And among other things, I would inform the viewers that government of Uganda came up with what they call the Tobacco Control Act. I think this came out in the year 2015. And in this, act, there's a very serious ban on smoking cigarettes in public. That is why many of these days we don't really see people moving on the street to take their cigarettes. But we also know that there's restriction to which places those few who smoke can smoke. Even when you go into a bar, you don't have to find people smoking from all over the place. They must have gazetted places. It has banned minors are young people, from participating even in the development, production, selling, advertising, involving in any business related to growing tobacco and cigarettes. And it has really put up penalties for people who commit offenses related to alcohol, drug and substance abuse.
But I think, Mr. Semakula, before you go ahead, yes, government has done all that, but I also want to say that young people and other people or other adults are still engaging the young people into such activities. So maybe we would want to hear from Terry, Paul and Denise and the rest of us here, the other young people, what their role would be. Before we finalize the legislation bit,
Sure.
what would be your role as young people, the ones that are here and to also the ones that are watching us on NTV? What could be your role as young people in trying to prevent this? What could you do?
Okay, from what I've picked here, let me say at school, I'd sensitize like my schoolmates, my friends to avoid drugs. And let me say if I find someone taking them, I'd obviously report them to the school administration.
And definitely don't hesitate reporting, because if you don't report, the next time the strike appears or occurs and it is that drug addict who has caused it, all your property could be banned.
Okay.
Definitely, I would. Let me talk, and it's like advise parents not really to take drugs in front of their kids, because seriously, it's not advisable.
And we have those parents who are so rich and they love the children so much, and so there's a full bar in the house. So Paul is cautioning you, my dear colleagues, the parents, don't expose the children so much these dangerous substances.
Okay.
Is Denis telling us anything? What could you do as
A young
Denise?
person.
Personally, I'd keep away,
You'd keep away.
and I would advise anyone who's my age and anyone out there to keep away from such dangerous things, because in the long run, it's going to be you who's affected, not anyone else. Yes, you're going to do the drugs, you're going to do the alcohol, but in the end, you're going to be the one to end up with a lung cancer, you're going to be the one to end up with a liver problems. So just stay away from drugs and alcohol.
Denis, let nobody really deceive you that you are so cool when you take drugs. There's no coolness in taking drugs. Just go out there, ask Mr. Google and research. There are people who have landed in very, very serious troubles because of drugs. So I like it when you say you promise to keep away.
And I think cool kids are assertive and they know what they want. It is not about the alcohol they take, because then you have an influence, you have something behind you that is actually pushing you to do something. So knowing what you want would be actually the cool thing about the young people today, given that you have a lot of access to technology and so many other things that could keep you busy. Maybe we should also hear from Hillary.
Also,
And
I
should
could
be.
advise and I could also separate myself from those bad peer groups, so that if you stay away from those groups, those such a bad groups, of course, obviously you can't get involved in such thing. So I personally, I could stay away from those peer groups, bad peer groups. Yeah, that's what.
Okay, that's a good commitment. Hillary, keep it up. Shobi is giving us the...
I think younger people should involve themselves in activities that are positive. So it will help, like, instead of wasting your time thinking about using drugs, you'll use your time for more positive things,
Like
such
what?
as
like dance, dance classes. You can go and learn how to dance, learn new things, travel. You know.
But you could as well go to the garden, you know, that too much energy you have.
I think
Yes,
going to
you could
get
as well go to go to church
Yes.
and pray instead of that moment when you are redundant, you have nothing to do. You could go and help out in the house chores.
You could
But you
even
could also
learn something new
Yeah.
because sometimes in the holidays, if it's not about reading books, there is something else that you can teach yourself. You can teach yourself how to weave. Some of you have smartphones. You could learn from YouTube, and instead of watching other things that are not going to add any value on you,
And
it would be
Priscilla,
important
during the
that you teach
lockdown,
yourself
all of
a
us parents
skill.
and children have had a lot of time. And whereas we regret that the lockdown locked us down, those who are wise have really done lots of good things. So getting back to the positive use of energy positively, in this
Very
lockdown
important.
period, we're not even sure of when we are starting school again. Find something useful to do, anything useful. Grow mushrooms, rare pottery, learn a new skill, as she says, and this will really take you very far. So our dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen, before we get back to her final word, it is very important to know that the main message across all this entire discussion is really about the dangers and the need not to start abusing drugs.
Okay, thank you for those who have been participating with us. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.